You've heard it a million times, right? That AI is just a fancy copy-paste machine, that it can't really be original. But what if that's not just wrong, but completely missing the point? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a new way of thinking about creativity itself, not just for AI, but for all of us. So this is it. This is the big one. The question at the heart of pretty much every single debate about artificial intelligence. Can a system that only knows the past actually create something genuinely new for the future? And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures that skeptical view, doesn't it? The idea that AI is just shuffling old ideas around and spraying a little perfume on them to make them seem new. And look, it's a powerful argument. But what if it isn't the whole story? Okay, so let's start right there with this common critique. The basic idea is that an AI is fundamentally trapped. It's fenced in by its training data. So if all it knows is what we've already fed it, how can it possibly do anything more than just endlessly reshuffle those same old pieces? But here's the thing. That answer, it just feels a little too easy, doesn't it? I mean, yes, of course these systems learn from the past. That's what learning is. But to just stop there and say, case closed, well, that's to miss the much deeper, much more interesting question about what originality really is. So how do we get to that deeper answer? Well, we have to totally shift our perspective. Let's stop thinking about creativity as some magical act of making something out of nothing. What if instead it's about discovering something that was hidden all along, a kind of new geometry? So what on earth do we mean by new geometry? Well, imagine a mind, and this could be human or AI, it doesn't matter, that doesn't just store information like a big filing cabinet. Instead, it compresses all of that experience. It folds it and squishes it down until it finds the essential relationships, the deep patterns. That compressed structure, that's your map. That's the new geometry. And here's the crucial part. Once you have that map, you're not just pulling out old files anymore. You're not just quoting your sources. You can actually move through that space. You can explore. This isn't retrieval, and it's not quotation. It's a totally different act. It's navigation. And this quote just nails it. Originality isn't about throwing the map away and running off into the void. It's about using the map, using the structure of everything you know to find a path, a connection that was always possible, but that no one had ever walked before. Okay, but how does this actually work in practice? That brings us to this really cool, kind of paradoxical idea. How the act of making something smaller, of compressing information, can actually create more possibilities, not fewer. How less becomes more. Normally, right, we think of compression as losing something. You zip a file, it gets smaller. But this idea flips that completely on its head. When you compress a massive amount of data in the right way, you're not just saving space. You are massively increasing your ability to generate new things from it. And the key here is that good compression isn't just throwing stuff away. It's not deletion, it's distillation. So imagine you read 10,000 novels. You don't remember every single word, do you? Of course not. What you have is the distilled essence of what makes a story work. You have something way more powerful than the individual books. You have a generative engine for storytelling. And there really seems to be a tipping point here. You know, when compression is pretty simple, it's just for storage. It's archival, like putting old photos in a box. But once it gets complex enough, once it crosses a certain threshold, it stops being a memory bank and it becomes exploratory. It starts actively looking for new connections on its own. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because this whole framework, this idea of geometry and compression, it's not just for talking about machines, not by a long shot. This is actually a super powerful way to understand our own creativity and even how novelty happens in the natural world. We can really think about newness in 3 different levels. First, you've got variation. That's just remixing things on the surface. Then you've got invention, which is deeper. That's rearranging the structural parts to make something new that works, like building a new kind of engine. But then there's originality. That's the deepest level. That's when you combine things in a way that reveals a whole new playing field you didn't even know existed. And you see this pattern everywhere. Seriously, think about it. A mathematician starts with just a few basic rules and proves a theorem that blows everyone's minds. Evolution works with the same old molecules and comes up with something as insane as an eye. A jazz musician has only 12 notes to work with. In every single one of these cases, the box of parts is limited, but the new paths you can find within it are practically infinite. Okay, let's lock this in with a few really sharp definitions. First up, originality. What is it? It's the discovery or the construction of a whole new map. A new way of compressing reality that suddenly makes all these hidden connections start sparking with potential. Next, invention. That's what you get when you take that new map and you actually build something with it. You turn it into a concrete, usable thing, a concept, a tool, a new piece of music. It's originality made real. And finally, there's novelty. Novelty is simply what all of this feels like from the inside. It's that aha moment. It's the feeling you get when the world you thought you knew suddenly has a new door in it that you'd never seen before. So let's bring all this home. We've gone through compression, geometry, these different levels of newness. So at the end of the day, what are the actual conditions? What does it take for real novelty to emerge? Well, it seems to boil down to these three things. First, you need the map, that deep, compressed structure of experience. Second, you need movement, the ability to actually explore that map. And third, you need pressure, a goal, a problem to solve, something that forces you off the beaten path and rewards you for finding those unmarked roads. And this is the single most important takeaway from this whole thing. We tend to think that creativity means having no rules, no constraints, freedom from structure. But this whole idea suggests the exact opposite. True creativity comes from having a deep, rich structure and learning how to move within it. It's freedom through structure. So let's end with this final thought. Maybe we should stop thinking about the mind, any mind, human or otherwise, as just a dusty warehouse for storing old facts. Maybe it's much more like an architect, using the raw materials of experience to constantly discover and build new, hidden rooms inside reality. Rooms that were always possible, but had never been opened. Makes you wonder, what hidden rooms is your own mind ready to build?